Welcome to our latest video. We're going to show you how to put the power of ChatGPT into your Golang apps. We're also going to show you how to speed up your code creation process by using ChatGPT. Some say that using services like ChatGPT to create code will just make us dumber. I disagree. I think it's a lot like when the calculator became commonplace. Now, my parents' math education was drastically different than mine. I wouldn't say that I became dumber because I had a calculator. I would just say that the expectations were raised. There's obviously a lot more calculus, for students when I was in school because, graphing calculators were commonplace. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Let's jump on in. When using ChatGPT to write code, be ready to ask it more than once. After reading through the first answer, you're going to know what things to add to the question to get back a much better answer. For instance, my first question to ChatGPT wasn't worded very well. I asked it, how do I make a Golang web app where users could ask ChatGPT a question and get back a response? Problem being is I didn't specify, and I was getting back an HTTP response, which isn't as easy to work with as, say, getting that data and plugging it into Golang variables. Now, although you can ask ChatGPT a question for free, an API request is going to have a fee with it. Now, this is going to be dependent upon which model you use. If you use the best model, the DaVinci model, it's going to give you longer output and better instruction following. On the other hand, if you use the Ada model, it's going to be faster and it's going to be quite a bit cheaper. So the DaVinci is going to cost you about 2 cents for every 1,000 tokens, while the Ada model is going to be much less than 1 cent for every 1,000 tokens. Now, what is a token exactly? Well, a token is not exactly a word. It is a unit of meaning. So a word can be broken up into several different tokens. So if we take a look at, just generally speaking, what they say, it's, 4 characters or about 0.75 words, generally going to be a token. So if I go over to the OpenAI tokenizer, I can look at a word like unbelievable, and it can say, hey, we got 4 tokens here, for our 12 characters. So for instance, we have which is going to say, hey, saying this is not believable. So all these carry some form of meaning. So at this, so currently I've used this quite a bit. Still haven't spent an entire cent yet, but I'm getting closer. So you want to be careful. You want to make sure that you set a max limit on how many tokens that you want for your response. So that way you don't have any unexpected charges. All right, let's take a look at the code that we got back from ChatGPT. So in summary, we're going to go ahead and create a HTTP request. We're going to go ahead and create a client, which we're going to use to make that HTTP request. We're going to go ahead and read the response body from that request. And then we're going to go ahead and marshal it because it's going to be slice bytes. So that way we can read that response. So let's take a little closer look. So like I said, we're going to go ahead and create a request. We're going to use HTTP new request, which needs a method, a URL, and a reader. So type post. Our URL is here is the one that they gave us. And then we need a strings.newReader, which is going to return a strings.reader, a pointer to strings.reader. And it'll allow it to read part here. So as we can see, this is very similar to JSON objects that it's going to be expecting. So we're going to say, hey, model is required. Say, hey, it's the DaVinci model. And then we have our question, and then how many tokens we're allowed to use. We're going to go ahead and check for an error. We're going to go ahead and add to our request that we returned here. We're going to go ahead and add 2 headers. So we're going to go ahead and use the add function, and it's going to go ahead and take a key and a value. So the content type going to be application/JSON, and for authorization, and this is where we need to place our API key. Now, we don't want to save our API key in plain text because if someone gets a hold of this, they can make requests on our behalf and run up quite a big bill. We're just going to go ahead and save that into an environmental variable, pull that variable, and then concatenate it in, add it to our header. So we're going to go ahead and create a new client, which we're going to use to send our request. And we're going to use client.do method. We'll go ahead and send our HTTP request. We'll go ahead and make sure that we didn't incur any errors. and then we're going to make sure that the body closes, because we're going to use defer to do that to make sure, in case we run into some error before that. Then we're going to go ahead and read and parse our response, and we're going to use IOUtil packages read all. Read all reads from R until an error or end of file and returns the data it read. A successful call returns error equal to nil, not error equal to end of file. So it's end of file, it's not going to return EOF, it's going to return equal to nil, which is good because that's pretty standard what people usually do for checking errors in Golang. Make sure it's not equal to nil. Anyway, so it's going to go ahead and read that, and notice it's going to return a slice of bytes. And that's what we're expecting, because that's what we're sending across the internet and what it's sending back. So we're going to have to change that so it is readable. And we're just going to go ahead and print it here so you can see what that looks like. And then we're going to go ahead and save that response. And like I said earlier, the question wasn't worded correctly. And don't worry, in the next code example, we're going to go ahead and fix this. It's going to go ahead and place the data into some Golang variables, which is going to be a lot handier. All right, now before we run this, let's go ahead and change the question. ChatGPT 3 is trained on 175 billion parameters. So let's ask the real question. So why is my cat fighting and tearing up cardboard boxes? Go ahead and run this. All right, so we're getting an invalid URL message. Now, I'm not sure why I'm getting this. Could be this URL worked and the most current information that it's trained on is about 2 years old at ChatGPT 3, so that's something to be aware of. Maybe I could have worded the question better. I do know that when I ask it about making this same prompt, it is giving me the correct URL. Now, even at the time when it gave me this one, I asked you, are you sure this is the correct one? It said, oh yeah, this is the correct one. But then again, if it is old information, it wouldn't know. So let's take a look at the documentation here. And for completions, we want to use the URL openai.com/v1/completions. We take that over here, paste it in, save, and run. Okay, this looks a little bit better. So notice we're not getting that invalid URL message, and we're even getting back some information here. So as we're looking in our code here, the first thing that we printed was we were printing the body, and we're just using string to make it of type string before it prints. As you can see, the body has all of this information here, and the part that we're most interested in is inside of this map here, the key value pair for text. Well, that's our answer here. Cats may engage in behavior like biting and tearing up cardboard boxes because it is in instinctual activity intended to help them learn hunting and predatory skills. Okay, and then if we look down here at the response, we also printed it out as well, which is just a map with the choices, also has a map. So we can actually get back more than one response, should you want to. But anyway, we're going to look at some other code that's going to make this a lot easier to work with. So if we just want to get the answer back, or say if we want to save it into a Golang variable where we can work with it. So let's take a look at this. All right, let's take a look at our other code. So we're going to use this ChatGPT web package, which is just going to provide a simple web server for which users can ask ChatGPT a question. Now, to get that answer from ChatGPT, this package is going to use the ChatGPT API package. All right, let's go ahead and take a look. Like I said, we're going to go ahead and pull in that other package. We're going to still need an API key, and we're going to use And the GPT is the alias, just so we don't have to have this long thing here. And we're going to use a function called create client. It's going to go ahead and provide a client. Of course, you need to have that API key. We're just going to go ahead and use Gen to go ahead and create a router. We're going to go ahead and load our templates like we usually do, which is just this index.html. Back to that go. And we're just handling two different routes. So the HTTP requests that are GET methods will be handled by the ask GET handler, and the ones that are post will be handled by the ask post handler. So the GET handler is real simple. It's just going to go ahead and give it a status code OK. It's going to go ahead and use our index.html template, and we're not passing in any data. So simply, it's just going to provide this form for the user. When they hit submit, the action it's going to take is going to be a post method, and it's going to be at /ask. So go back to main.go. So when it's a post at the URL /ask, it's going to be the post handler, which is just simply going to go ahead and grab that question from our form. And then we're going to go ahead and use the client that we created, the other package, and it's going to take that question and it's going to go ahead and return an error. Answer, we're going to go ahead and check for an error, let the user know if there is an error. If not, everything goes fine. Then we're just, status accepted. We're going to go ahead and again use the index.html template, but this time we're going to go ahead and pass in some data. We're going to use the gen.h, and it's just going to be message, and we're passing in answer. So if we take a look at that, so if message does exist, go ahead and fill this in and put the message down here. So let's just go ahead and run this. Let's go our browser. Important. ChatGPT Golang. Enter. Second to go. Fonts. Using ChatGPT with Golang is a great way to efficiently power your chatbot applications by leveraging the vast network of available libraries combined with the simple yet powerful programming languages of Golang. Yes, big advocate of simple. Developers are able to quickly and easily build chatbot applications that are both reliable and powerful. This leads to improved customer experience, yada, yada, yada. In addition, ChatGPT with Golang also helps businesses reduce their development cost dramatically as they are. Now, notice this cuts off here, and we'll go ahead and show you why in our code is because we did not allow enough tokens. So again, this is pretty boilerplate stuff. We've a lot of different web servers. But anyway, let's go ahead and look at our chat-api.go that we were pulling in right here. I went ahead and push this up to GitHub. Go take a look. So before we were just getting back HTTP responses or just pulling some of the text out of there. If we go back and look at some of our documentation from OpenAI. Again, we're using JSON responses. There's different parameters that we can use, like if we want to know the usage, maybe we're getting back more than one choice. If you want that, and it can keep track of exactly the ID of that particular response. So there's different things you might want to know about it. It can tell you which model you used, and again, like your total cost. So, and same thing with the parameters for our request. We want to limit how many tokens. We don't spend too much. Temperature is just how variable, how creative it'll get with the responses. If you put in 0, you're going to get the same response every single time. But if you want it to be more creative, and take more chances to get a little, like I said, a little more creativity, then just go ahead and turn that number up and back to our code. So if we can put these things into Golang variables, we can go ahead and work with these a lot more. So prompt params, this is what we're going to be sending in the request. Like I said, a lot of these different ones, max tokens, you can go ahead and set to protect yourself. Now make sure that we have these tags here. For some of these, if let's say, I know for this one, if we don't have omit empty, it's going to go ahead and cause an error. Anyway, with our response, like we were showing, you can get more than one choice. So this is our choice struct, and we can have more of those. Usage, going to be another struct, and here are different fields as well. We're going to go ahead and create a client, just making the request easier. Here's that create client that we're using in the other package, which is just going to go ahead and return a client. And it's going to go ahead and have access to our API key and the URL our API communicates across. We return that client, which has a method. We have an ask GPT answer and one for response. So if we want the full response, great, it'll save it into that variable. But if we just want a string of whatever the answer is, we can just ask this one as well. So let's go ahead and more function here. Take a look at the bottom. And then we're also creating the prompt params and setting these to the default values. So that way when we send it, let's say if you just want to ask a question and you don't want to know anything particular, we're setting these for you. But you want to fork this project and be able to change stuff. Well, it'd be pretty easy. Like, hey, I want 200 tokens or whatever. Like I said, if we wanted that response to be a little bit longer, we'd have to increase this from 100 tokens to something larger. So let's go ahead and just take a look at how the ask GPT for an answer works. So again, in the other package, ask the question, we got back an answer, and then they check for the error. We're going ahead and creating a new prompt, and we're saving it into P, and we're just setting those default values that it would expect. And our JSON params are going to go ahead and be a slice of byte. And we're using json.marshal. Go ahead and change this. So let's go ahead and take a look down here in terminal. Print those out. I'm going to go ahead and delete a lot of these print statements after, and then go ahead and push it back up to GitHub. But demonstration, I just wanted to show those. Okay, JSON params after Marshall. So like we're expecting, this is returning a slice of byte. As you can see here, we have our bytes. And if we take a look at this, 123, 34. Now these aren't ones and zeros. Golang is base UTF-8. So if we take a look at 123, 34, and 109, take a look at that in the browser real quick. For instance, what did I say for 123 and 34? So we have our left curly brace, 34 and 109. So 34 double quotes and 109M. So it's just the start of our JSON. Now, if we use the string across our JSON params, we can change that to a string. So just like I said, 123, then the quotation marks are 34, 109. And actually, I'm kind of glad that they use a decimal, because just ones and zeros, seeing 8 of those for each one of those would be a lot harder to interpret and look at. But these are pretty easy. You see a lot of 34s and say, okay, yeah, I have a lot of quotation marks, just like you would expect in JSON. So here's our string here of in the JSON format. We didn't get any error, so it was nil. And then we ran HTTP new request, and we're saying, hey, this is of method post. We have our URL, and then on this new request section here, we're expecting a reader. So strings.newReader is going to go ahead and return a pointer to string.reader. and we're just passing in the string text of that JSON, and then it's checking to see if there was an error. So that'll be our HTTP request. Now, onto that request, we're going to go ahead and add the content type to application/JSON, so it knows, hey, we're not looking for a web page, we're passing JSON. Authorization, we're going to go ahead and pass bear and then our API key. That way it'll authorize us through the API. And we're going to go ahead and send that request. We're going to use our HTTP client so we can send that request and get back that response. And taking that, like I said, we're going to get back that HTTP response. Go ahead and check for an error. Now, on this response, we're mainly just looking for the response body, but we need to make sure that we close that response body, because even if if the error is equal to nil, we're still responsible for closing that. Anyway, so we get back our response. And like I said, we're just looking for the response body. We don't need to know all that other information at the moment. We're going to use IOUtil all, and this is going to go ahead and read everything. And if it reads all the way to the end of the file, it's still going to go ahead and return nil, which is good because our usual pattern that we're used to checking errors still works. So it's going to go ahead and return a slice of byte. We're going to check to make sure there's no error. And then we just printed off the body here so you can see what we're looking at here. In the body, again, slice of byte. So there's a curly brace, quotation marks, and of course, if we use the string function on it, well, then again, look, there's our, the string, that looks like JSON. So we're going to go ahead and create a response variable. And we're going to go ahead and unmarshal this because we don't want it in a string form. We want something easily to work with, like a Golang variable. So we're going to go ahead, this takes any, and then it's going to go ahead and return a slice of byte. And we're going to go ahead and read that one here. Unmarshal parses the JSON encoded data and stores the results in the value provided by V. So, okay, so we're passing in, that slice of byte, which is the body. And then we're going to go ahead and, like it says too, it's going to store the result in the value pointed to by V. So we passed in our, the address at response. And so it's going to save it at that place in memory. Anyway, go ahead and take a look at that. So we're going to go ahead and get our values there. So if we print this response, as you can see, this looks like a Golang variable. This is something that we can work with much easier. We're going to go ahead and then if we want to, it's real easy on response. We have the choices field, which again, can have more than one choices, but in this occasion, we only want to answer, put in 0 for the index, and then we want the text that, and then it just prints off our answer. Again, it got cut off because we didn't put enough max token for the params. And it also has a new line here at the start each time as well. If you found this helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps me out, and it is greatly appreciated. Now, go out there and make something really exciting, whether you're going to make some kind of virtual assistant, something where you can have better prompts for asking ChatGPT, maybe something through education where the assistant helps create study guides, whatever for the user. But there's so much that we can do with this, and just how we interface with our web apps, I think, and will just really are just going to evolve. It's going to be an intuitive, conversational type of way of doing it. I don't think that they're this is just a fad. I think this is just an easier, lower friction way of interacting with these different systems. So make something cool. Let me know in the comments below what you created, and I'll see you in the next one.